Good afternoon. It's Wednesday, the 31st of March, back in the Reading Nook on what is a bright, warm and sunny day. And of course, I have a cup of tea and a whole load of parcels to unbox. So I'm going to continue on by getting into this one again. Now I've already pulled one thing out of this, which is the Major Easy from Rebellion and their Treasury of British Comics. Talked about that. So the other thing that is in here is this Third World War. This is volume 2. In the harsh light of the third decade of this century, it seems everything that made the comics work, including the bloody single-mindedness, shines even brighter. Tony Shapiro from the Comics Journal. And background to this is, after an eye-opening experience of corporate interference in Central America, Eve returns to Britain with a renewed political drive and determination to fight for what she believes in. Written in the late 1980s by Pat Mills, creator of Nemesis, the Warlock and Slain. This incendiary second volume of the groundbreaking political comic not only contains contributions by legend Carlos Ezquerra, responsible for Judge Dredd and Preacher, but also introduces international comic stars Sean Phillips, best known for Criminal and Kill or Be Killed, and Duncan Fegredo, artist on Hellboy and Kid Eternity. Now, this appeared in a magazine back in the day, late 80s, because essentially what you had in the 80s was dominated by the British comic scene was dominated by Judge Dredd, and that's pretty much still the same. He's this Judge Dredd in 2000 AD figure very largely in British comics, and have done for the past 40 years. This appeared in its own magazine called Crisis, and other things like New Statesman and other comics stories, and was where Judge Dredd, 2000 AD, and it had aspects of satire and some social commentary, mostly done with the satire. They were really science fiction adventure stories, first and foremost. Crisis was written for an older audience, so late teens onwards, really talking, and it was talking about political issues, cultural issues at the time, and so on. So was more mature in its storytelling, in a sense, or in the subject matters that it would address. So this was looking at the politics of the time, in particular globalization, which is a continuing issue today, and would be basically would grow and grow throughout the 90s and into the noughties, and essentially first world or interference in third world countries, and that's really what this is about. The original book, essentially Evie signs up to serve in South America, basically with peacekeeping forces, and discovers that the peacekeeping forces, backed up by corporate interests through non-governmental organisations, and basically charities, are doing as much damage as they are good, if they're doing any good at all. And in this, Evie returns home to Britain, having been disillusioned by her work, her time in Central America, and but politically fired up by her experiences. Now, this notably, the Third World War, Book 2, Back to Babylon. The publishers have chosen to amend some of the dialogue in this book. This book is a condemnation of racism. As a result, features characters who are racist. These characters use the racial syllogism, reflects the period in which the story was written, and informs the period in which it is set. We have chosen to block out part of the offending words. We believe this leaves the author's meaning clear, but recognises the offence their inclusion can otherwise cause. The racist dialogue incidents featured in this story are influenced in part by police and people in London, a survey of Londoners, a study carried out by the Independent Policy Institute in 1983 at the request of Scotland Yard, and also pages 40 and 41 in Policing Against Black People, Institute of Race Relations, 1987. Personal accounts described by the writers are also used. So this is also addressing, whereas this is addressing issues with between the authorities and the police here in the UK against minority groups here in the UK at the time, particularly black minority groups in the period, who throw basically, particularly since their arrival in the Windrush movement of the 40s and 50s through to the 60s, have had to fight for representation and safe treatment and fair treatment, and this is what this is addressing. And they're still having to do it again, unfortunately, today, if you go back to the Windrush scandal of 2016-2017, which highlighted just how badly our government and some of its government departments treated minority groups over basically right up to today. But again, this is essentially again a satire and commentary upon the politics of the period, and it's still likely applicable today. This is another comic which has been republished and collected by Rebellion as part of Treasury of British Comics, and this hasn't really been in print for probably over a decade, if not longer. So basically it's full colour throughout. It's great artwork. So let's just see. Here we go. I mean, again, it's quite dialogue heavy, but at the same time, that's not all we've got in here. We have action in here too. So, for example, we have typical confrontation between basically the police and a minority character that you constantly you hear about in the media, and how badly the minority communities were treated by the authorities. Throughout the period, but this is again, what this essentially does is it exacerbates elements of what is seen as a fascist state by those minority groups, by some members of those minority groups, I should make clear, and exacerbates them for the purposes of storytelling, and basically to highlight how bad the treatment is, which is a common sort of like storytelling device when it comes to sort of science fiction stories and the like. I mean, again, we have full painted artwork throughout. Again, lots of sort of like talking about the issues, and as well as the action. I'm basically trying to find there are action scenes in here, like that. And what's interesting about this is that the comics, even when we got to the point of the late 80s, we've moved on to full colour, fully painted stories, and leaving the black and white behind that we'd had from the 40s and the 50s, 60s, right through to the 70s. The use of colour is rich and detailed. So I'm looking forward to reading this. I'm hoping they're going to put. I'm also looking forward to see essentially what more is going to be published by the Treasury of British Comics, because there's some fantastic titles sitting there in the vault ready to come out. I mean, you know, the 2000 AD has 40 years of stories, and many of them have been reprinted. A lot of Judge Dredd and Rogue Trooper and Strontium Dog have been reprinted, and they're all worth tracking down and reading them if you can. But there's other stories that the publisher, or basically Fleetway, also published, and they've not got quite as much widespread basically acclaim or coverage as Judge Dredd and those titles from the 2000 AD have. So looking forward to those coming out in the near future. In the meantime, that's Third World War, Back to Babylon. There can be future, should be at least another volume of this, probably 2 from memory, but it's a long time since I've read this. In the meantime, thank you for watching another unboxing in the Nook. If you would like to hear, basically be alerted to yet more incidents of me sat out here in the Read Nook just talking about things I've received from the post, then please click the subscribe button. If you've enjoyed what I've been talking about, then click the like button, and if you have feedback and comments, then I do take the time to read those. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll be back very soon with another unboxing in the Nook. Bye for now.